Dusty, snap out of it!
Any of this look familiar?
Our constellation contact is on approach.
Yeah, but come on. Exploring space? Who does that anymore? Ain't the space we've already got complicated enough?
Welcome aboard the Starfield Report podcast. And now we begin the main quest.
Welcome, Captains, to the Starfield Report podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth Smyson, and with me, as always, is Jax Wiley. How you doing, Jax?
Doing great. Glad to have you with us, Captains.
Just another fun day in the galaxy, flying spaceships around and doing some space stuff. So today we're going to cover what we've been doing in the game lately. There's no actual game news, and Jax made a good point. If we're called the Starfield Report podcast, we should include some news reports, but no new news from our overlords at Bethesda as of this week. But then after the next up, we'll get into some mod talk, and then the main topic of today's episode, which is going to be your main quest missions 1 through 6. So what have you been up to in Starfield this week, Jax?
Well, I started a new character, and to run through the main quest to see how that went, to kind of refresh myself and see how it goes. And, I forgot how, running a 150 level character for so long, you forget how weak and how fragile these first 10 levels or 15 levels are, and how difficult it is to get a lot of anything done. So I've been struggling to try to just get through the first handful of missions. Kind of what I've been doing.
Yeah, same here. I was going to take my main character through the main quest again, because he just went through the Unity into NG3, or technically NG plus 2, so his third universe. But it's like, nah, I want to kind of go back to a brand new character and experience the game, try to jog my memory of what it was like to be that low-level character with not much skill, and see how that impacted the game. And I went to boost one time, and I was like, oh, I can't boost yet. I don't have that skill.
I started out with the soldier skill, so that gives you boost right off the bat. And I think it gives you pilot 1 and boost.
Pilot and boost. Okay.
So they're pretty handy to have right off the bat to start the game.
Yeah, purely from a mechanical thing. I mean, you get to level 2 pretty fast, so imagine you can just take the boost pack immediately right then if you do choose another class. But,
right.
Yeah. So most of my. Yeah, in fact, over the last 2 weeks since we last had our episode, all of my game time was dedicated to this new character for main quests 1 through 6. So we'll revisit that once we get to that topic of the episode here. So no new news in the game. So we're going to go ahead and start talking about our mod choices here. Once again, like last time, I'm going to go first because your mod's going to be a bit bigger of a one. And I chose Better Ship Part Flips. It's quite the tongue twister here. And so this is the mod that allows you to take any of the default modules, in particular the structure. But I think it also works with some of the shields and the cargo. But it doesn't work with HABs or obviously cockpits or engines. But it allows you to just rotate any ship you want, a part you want. And so I'm going to go through the slideshow here as I'm talking. And this is a strong contender for me. If I were to choose one mod for the game, probably would be this one. Just like for me, Ordinator in Skyrim would be my mod of choice there. I believe I probably would choose Better Ship Part Flips just because it can so dramatically change the look of your ship with just these little subtle things. And in fact, right now what I'm showing is the equipment plate. You know, the flat one, not that you typically can put just on top and then you mount a weapon on it. Well, here you can flip it to the side and upside down, which that you would think that would have been a default thing they could do in the main game, because I don't, they have that side mounted weapon mount that has the double, which is cool, but sometimes I don't want that, or sometimes it pushes a weapon too far out and it clips into something else when I'm trying to like tuck my weapons into the side. And then obviously when you want to put something on the bottom of a weapon down there, it's nice to have the equipment plate be able to be completely upside down on your ship. And so this mod in general, it works so well for so many of my ship designs that I've worked out. Is this a mod that you've installed yourself?
I have run that one. I'm not currently running it. What I like about it is, I can't remember what they're called, but it's the kind of the sloping wings that are, they're kind of triangle shaped, and but they only will sit either flat on the top or flat on the bottom.
Are they the Stroud Eklund pieces?
I think they are.
I think.
But with the flip mod, instead of sitting them like this, you can have them sit vertical like this, and you can run them as side plates, or you can turn them to be like wing shapes sticking out instead of forward to backward. You can have them sticking out, so you can make wings with them. You're right. That mod in particular does a lot of different things that gives you versatility of all the different parts. Where you're like, what? How come I can't turn this one this way? It would just make sense. But for some reason, Bethesda decided to lock this stuff down. And so modders had to go and unlock all this stuff so that we can actually play the game we want to play.
It's funny, right when you mentioned that, as I'm going through this long slideshow of all the pictures on the website, I happen to come to that Stroud Eklund, the screenshot of all the pieces. And I actually have not, I don't think I've even used that. I haven't flipped these around yet. I'm gonna have to do something fun with these.
Yeah, the Deimos ones also, the Deimos wing pieces, they're a lot of fun to play with that mod. You can make some really interesting wing shapes. I've got a design idea where I want to take the Cabot cockpit and then use those Deimos wings along with that flip mod what's the name of the mod again? I'm sorry.
Better Ship Part Flips.
Better Ship Part Flips. I got to find it again. I was just looking over my list. I don't have it, but I have used it. But I want to make like a crescent around of those wing parts of the Deimos wing around the sides and the front of the Cabot cab, so that it almost looks like a moon with a crescent around it.
Okay.
If you did like a shadow of it. And I've got one of my very first builds. I'll be going back to one of my very first builds and modifying it to this now that I have more experience playing with the parts and some of the mods that we have access to now. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to use that one in the near future. As
I'm scrolling through the slides here, the Hope Tech bumpers, they're the little curved ones. They have like the center pieces and then the side end caps. Those ones can be flipped to the side, because default vanilla, they only can be on the front or the back of the ship, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
But in the with this, you can have them going along the side of the ship as well. And so I've put those to good use. In fact, I put them to use on my Pilgrim ship, which I'll have to drop a little screen grab of it here. But yeah, that was a fun ship to make for that character, because I wanted to go Class A, small. Obviously, my options for weapons and engines and other stuff were a bit limited, but it was fun building a small ship again. And I didn't get too crazy with mods. I put two of the Avantech horn things up front, the trophy spike things. much more humble ship than I usually make. It's kind of sometimes it's hard to stick to a small ship.
That is hard. You start building. Oh, well, I need this. I want that. Next thing you know, it's Class B. I need better shields than that. Class A shields? No.
So our next, or your mod of the week is the Darkstar manufacturing. Now, a couple weeks ago, we went over the Darkstar, the shipbuilding one. What was that one called?
That was Darkstar Astrodynamics.
Okay. So, and I have not yet had the chance to use that mod yet, but I definitely want to. My thought is with my main character, going through that mod, starting his new game plus, I want to do that Astrodynamics mod where it's like the intent of that entire universe is just mastering that mod just to experience it start to finish. But anyways, yeah, so Darkstar Manufacturing, I've got it up on the screen here on Nexus. So what's the difference between Astrodynamics and manufacturing?
So, let's start by saying thank you to Wicked Gaming for developing these mods. And the manufacturing mod is different from the Astrodynamics in that the Astrodynamics mod is for your updating and giving you a little bit more spice to spaceship building. The manufacturing mod is kind of as its name implies, is for the manufacturing of your armor and your weapons. It gives you the ability to customize your apparel, so you can customize your hats to have armor stats or have resistance stats, which would make sense if you were wearing a lab coat. Maybe it would have some radiation resistance, or different things like that. So that's kind of the difference, the yin and the yang of the two of them. One is macro and one of them's micro, kind of as gameplay would go, I would say.
Okay. And in his screenshots here on Nexus, he actually has or his images, he actually says like there's a terminal that explains everything about how to use the mod and when things unlock. So it's pretty well. Looks like it's pretty well set up mod here.
Yep.
And it looks like it's in the lodge basement.
Yep.
Okay. So all crafting stations buildable at outposts or on your ship. Okay, that's good. Allows for crafting of apparel, armor, and weapons, and upgrading quality, legendaries, and more. Okay.
Yeah. So in addition to your normal workbenches, there's 5 or 6 Darkstar workbenches that give you the ability to upgrade your armor. There's an armor workbench, there's an apparel workbench, there's a weapons workbench. And then from that, you can trying to think how to explain it all. Again, this is one of those so just immersive. It's such a large mod that everything has to unlock. Just like if you were wanting to upgrade your guns to be able to use silencers, when you're at level 1, maybe you can't do that.
Okay.
So you got to go and do research, and in order to do the research, you got to go get the materials. Well, this mod is the same thing. You got to start doing research for the Darkstar stuff and for the upgrading of your weapons and armor. It also gives you a higher level tier list for your armors and weapons, where the original game has 3 or 4 tiers of weapons, and this turns it into 5 or 6. So you go from, first, second, third level tiers when you find them. It injects them into the entire game, so they're injected into the loot lists of your enemies, and so you may be finding some of these more powerful weapons before you can actually build them, but they're sprinkled.
Now, as I'm looking through the images here on Nexus, does this allow you to put your own legendary effects on weapons?
Eventually, yes.
Nice.
But again, it
takes a while to get to that.
Yeah, it says that it's, where was that? Oh, here it is. Base features unlock at level 1. The strongest upgrades require level 130 and potentially up to 20 NG plus trips for the best custom legendaries. So this
Okay.
is meant to have for an entire career game. you
Okay.
know. So
Now, and
it's
you,
it's meant to be on there for a long, long time. It's not meant to make you god tier in one playthrough. This is meant to use this and play through, and as you research, there's a lot of research. It's like 65 different weapon research categories, and again, like 40 or 50 for the armor and apparel.
okay.
So it takes a long time to get all this stuff gathered up and get all the resources. And some of the resources are kind of rare. So when you start getting to some of the more higher levels of stuff, the materials are harder and harder to come by. So you've got to go out and play the game. It gives you a lot of stuff to do.
Okay.
Once you've already played through the game, you're like, well, what do I do now? Well, work on your, work on your gear.
What's a fun fact, Wicked himself, the mod author, commented on our last podcast, and I was chatting with him briefly there in the comment section, and he said all the research rolls over from one universe to the next. So even though you won't carry your weapons and everything over, the research goes with you, just like your perks and your traits and your vanilla research knowledge. So that's pretty awesome to be able to carry that over.
Right.
So I could see myself once my main character or any character, once they're in their quote unquote final universe. So like my combat medic, I'm never going to do the main quest on him. I'm doing all the bounty hunter stuff. I did UC Vanguard, and I did the Crimson Fleet siding with the Sistef. So he's pretty much never, I can immediately start working through the Darkstar manufacturing, build him some nice weapons.
Right.
Now I'm seeing in this, what is the Darkstar quantum harness? Because in one of his images, he shows a loot box with that sitting in there and says it drops his loot and is craftable.
Okay. So the quantum harness is one of the materials that's required in order to upgrade to the very highest tiers of the weapon. So if you're taking your weapon from a normal weapon to, now I can't remember, in order to make it into the Mark II weapons, that's what you have to turn a normal weapon into a Mark II weapon. That makes it to where you can start adding your legendary effects.
Okay.
So you need the quantum harness to do that. And every time you do a research under the Darkstar research tabs, it takes quantum harness. So that's one of his level locks, one of his way he gatekeeps how quickly you can get through.
Okay, so it kind of throttles you and so you don't advance too quickly. Okay.
Exactly. And in order to make the quantum harness, it takes some rare materials.
Okay.
So it's like you can just jump in there and make 100 frames, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 100 quantum harness in one batch. You've got to go and you've got to do some mining, and you've got to set up a mine somewhere so that you get some of these rarer materials.
Okay.
So it adds another level of gameplay. Something, what else to do? What else can I do after I've gone through NG Plus a couple of times and I've done all the quests what now? Well, have you done base building? You're going to need some of that stuff. Let's build a base and make some materials so that we can advance in this mod. So
Now,
the third level of the mod is something he calls volatile weapons, and they use volatile ammunition, and that you have to make your weapons into a Mark III weapon, right? So you go from a normal weapon to a Mark II to a Mark III. Once you turn it into a Mark III, you have to manufacture your own volatile ammunition, and that ammunition is ballistic and energy. Or is it energy? Or is it plasma?
Are you saying, do you mean vile or volatile?
Vile. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. It's right when you started talking about that, I happened to look at the image of the old Earth pistol, and it actually said vial up there, so that was I was clarifying that.
Yeah.
Now this is cool because it says any weapon can now be viable in the end game, and that's the thing that's going to really turn me on for this mod then, because some of the weapons I love the look of are not that great in game, and then some of the like for example the mag guns are very powerful, and so a lot of times I kind of end up having those in the end game, but I don't really like the look of them too much.
Yeah, it's almost like the game kind of funnels you to, as you get towards in-game content, you're kind of funneled to 2 or 3 weapons if you really want to be productive.
Yep.
This takes some of the lower tier weapons. You're able to upgrade those weapons through doing all your researches.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a grind. It's another grind for the game, but it's worth it because I mean I happen to really like 1911. So with the old Earth pistol, I can take that. It's only a 9-round gun, but then I can put a quad mag in it. Then I'm like 36 rounds. So okay, well that's I'm not changing rounds every few shots or magazines, and I can increase the damage to it to where, like you're seeing the picture there, it's doing 800 physical and 1,000 energy. So that makes it a viable end game weapon.
Exactly. Yeah, this pistol right here would be perfect for a lot of my characters, because he also has instigating, so it does double damage, and then hitman, so it's plus 15% while aiming, and then shattering to break through the strongest armor. So this is Splinter Cell level, like assassin pistol right here.
Right. And each one of those legendary effects that you're reading there is just one single research. So if you want it to be shattering, you've got to do the research for shattering.
Okay.
If you want it to be to where it, possible fire damage, you got to do the research for that. So every single legendary effect has a corresponding research tree limb. So you can decide which ones. Oh, I never use that. I'm not going to waste my time researching that one, but I like this one. So you can tailor exactly what research you do to develop the exact weapon you want.
Nice. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this mod.
Those are the 2 mods you were talking about. Your go-to, gotta have on every playthrough: Astrodynamics and manufacturing from Darkstar from Wicked Gaming. Those are my 2 base. Very first start off, put those in because they do so much for the game, and they're not overpowering until you've already become overpowering through just playing the video game anyway.
Good to know. I'm going to have to give these a spin. All right, moving on to our next topic is going to be the main quest. And let's talk briefly about the actual character creation. Do you have any kind of thoughts, anything that jumps out to you for the main or the character creation there?
Nothing jumps out to the top of my memory. It's, if you've been playing Bethesda games, you're accustomed to their creation, the way that they typically create characters, and so this is just seems to be the evolution of, as you play all of their games, you see a little bit of evolution in character creation as you go, and it's good. It's very customizable, especially like all the different things for the facial creation. I mean, you can make your character tall and thin, or short and not as thin, or anywhere in between. It's a triangle, and you go from muscular to thin to heavier. So any body shape, pretty much. I mean, within reason. But you get to the facial stuff, and it's everything: eyebrows, eyelids, nose, width of nose, length of nose, the space between the nose and the lips. I mean, there is so much that you could adjust. I mean, you can make your character look, physically, the face. If you spend enough time, you can make them look like anything, anyone you want.
Yeah, I've seen some people do a pretty good job making their character look like themselves. I tend to go with the default a default face, and then I'll change the hairstyle and the hair color and the beard, just because if something happens and I need to start a new character, I'm kind of I want to make sure I look the same as or a replacement, like if the game crashes or something and I need to start up a new guy. But yeah. Yeah, and then the background, nice being able to start off with 3 skills, and they have a good variety with the background. I like the background that said error no file or whatever, so it allows you to choose whatever your 3 starting skills are if you don't like the other backgrounds. But I like the backgrounds because it kind of gives me a launching point for my character's history, and a frame of mind to operate from a role play space as I make decisions in the game. And then, of course, the traits, which those are very reminiscent to me of New Vegas, Fallout New Vegas, where you have the traits that they can give you an advantage, but in some cases there's a disadvantage. Like my main character has the space trait, so he's better at combat in space, but worse on the surface.
Right. And I heard somebody saying they wished it was you could do that for like ground based and not as good in space. And I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
that there's one for that too.
yeah,
They've got ways.
yeah, terra firma. Terra firma allows you to do better combat on, because I have that for. Have I chosen that one yet? No, I have not chosen that one yet. But I'll probably do a character someday where that's the case, where he's maybe like he doesn't have his sea legs, right? He'll be sick when he's out in space, and so he just does better when he's on the ground. I might, if I do a soldier. So I think each time I do a new character, I'll do I'll pick a different background, so that way I kind of have a little flavor to go off of. So my soldier will probably be terra firma.
Right.
So
Hicks gets sick whenever they do the drop ship.
Yep. The first quest of the game is One Small Step, and it's a launching point for our character. Starts off on the planet Vectera, and your character is doing some mining. And what are your thoughts kind of on that first quest up to, let's say, up to the Crimson Fleet little battle?
So at this point, when you start off, of course, it's the very start of the game. So it's just teaching you to walk. You don't have access to your inventory at first. You don't have access to jumping, to weapons. It's just, the game is just kind of teaching you how to walk before you run. And so each step of this first mission is just a little bit in the tutorial to help you build your confidence in the game. So I've always liked the way they do these. But if you play the game over and over and over again, this part can get a little repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's, the first time through, I was amazed. The whole way it was just wide-eyed, and what are they going to show me now? What's coming up next? And all the different set pieces that you'd never seen before. I love the Bethesda games, and this is a new world I get to play in that they've given me, and so it was so exciting. I had so much fun, and just like I say, just like a wide-eyed kid at Christmas, opening up package after package. Every time you go through a door, it was something new. And I remember Todd Howard talking about this, where all of their games have a stepping out point. Like in Skyrim, when you break out of the prison and you step out into the world the first time. You have this, holy smokes, there's a mountain over there and I can go to that. Or in Fallout 3, Fallout 4, maybe? When you came out of the silo after the nukes, and it's, again, you've got this step out moment. All of their games have this particular, you're done with the tutorial, we're taking the handcuffs off, here's the world, go play. So in this one, it seemed like it did that a few times because of all the different mechanics in the game. So the first one is once you get out of the mine and you step out onto the planet's surface, they've opened it up a lot at that point. Here, you've got most everything you can do. We haven't talked about ships yet, so just wait on. We'll get you there.
Yep.
All of the world is open. So if you don't go talking to people, you can wander around the whole surface area and interact with the environment and creatures on the planet and whatnot like that. And I've heard of people getting their characters quite a ways, quite a few levels in just that first staging area, just by interacting with the environment and whatnot.
Oh, outside of the little Argos base.
Yep.
So for me, this was, well, regarding the whole tutorial process, I almost wish there was like a option to, like, you could, in a dialogue choice, you could say, hey, I already know how to do all this, and kind of skip through some of it to a certain extent, because like you were saying, it can be a little repetitive if you're doing a new character. But that's always, I've got a save that's right before you touch the artifact for the first time, because then when you touch that, that's when you go through the thing and you wake up in the bed and Heller's like, does this look familiar? And you get to create your character.
Right.
But
if you've played the Bethesda games, you know right here is where I need a save.
Yep.
So I can go through and I experience all of this one or two times, but then from then on, I can just start at the save and I can make another character and go through the game and play all over again. So,
exactly.
Yeah, typical, it's the formula that they use that's kept them successful for so long.
As far as the stepping out moment, I remember Todd Howard, like you said, talking about that. There's a couple of them. When I first came out of the outpost building and you step out onto the surface, you have to put your helmet on, of course. Almost was a slight letdown for me personally, because I do remember, like you were mentioning earlier, when you come out of the vaults in the Fallout games or in Skyrim, was probably my favorite moment. You walk out of that cave, you see Alduin flying off, and I look across this valley of the Falkreath Forest, and I see some ruins here, and I see some building on the horizon, and just knowing at that point I can go do whatever I want. I started to walk around at that point, but I realized I'm on a desolate rock of a planet. I'm mining here. And so I would have liked, if I were to make a tweak on this, I would have had the opening mining mission actually be at like kind of a starter mine right outside of New Atlantis, or at least where you can see New Atlantis skyscrapers on the horizon, and have that tram that you can take in New Atlantis, give you the option to go straight into New Atlantis from there, and do all of this. You have an option once you finish that first Crimson Fleet fight, right? So have everything play out the same, but the difference is okay, now you can go just run around. You can go walk over straight to New Atlantis. You can take the tram there, or you can follow. Do your first space flight. That way for the players that didn't want to do the space thing in a spaceship yet, give them a chance to walk around. Because I personally would have liked to have done that, where I just get to roam around that whole region. Because I think the New Atlantis region is not procedurally generated. I think it's the same for everybody. Also around Aquila City, any of those main points, I think everybody has the same square, but when
the city is in, everything in that tile is handcrafted.
Exactly. I think that's how it is for everybody, and so it would have been nice to have that. So that's obviously not a deal breaker. Love the game, but that's just one tweak I would have made to make the game a little different in that first mission.
Yeah, I could see that, or like you say, maybe the world's not quite as dead. You know what I mean? Give me a little something here.
Yeah, as far as Vectera being, pretty desolate. I don't think there's it. Well, it's bad atmosphere. You have to wear your helmet. So from a mechanic standpoint, I understand why they were introducing it in the way they did. Yeah, because if you were if you were on Jemison, you wouldn't have to have a helmet on. So there's some mechanic stuff there that they probably wanted to get through in the tutorial phase that they needed players to understand. But so then you meet Barrett when he comes in on the frontier. You take off with Vasco, and you get into your first space battle, flying a ship. So I really like the space combat. I like how the weapon design is set up. It's you can be simple with it if you want, or you can be complicated. A couple of my ships only have one weapon type, so I get the little warning. I don't have weapons 2 or 3, but that way I can have that one. I have one that's a starfighter, and I just have some of the particle beams on it. And I like that because then it's just straightforward. I can have that weapon maxed out on power. I can have my shield and my engines maxed out. Don't have to worry about anything else. Just shoot that, rinse and repeat.
Right. Yeah, and this is the first time that I got into ship combat, man. I have not done a lot of space video games. So flying ships is a little bit different for me. I've tried stuff like Star Wars Squadrons or, some of the airplane flight simulator type of stuff, and didn't grab me. But this, I was like, okay, this is a part of a video game. It's not even the whole thing. It's only a small section of the game. The more I built my skill and got comfortable with the controls, the more I understood how to maneuver my ship and use thrusters to spin and fire and different things like that. It became a lot more comfortable, a lot easier to control. But that first battle, the first time I did that I had to have died for it. Just trying to kill a couple of simple low-level Crimson Fleet ships. It was a steep learning curve there for me at first.
Yeah, that one was. I play a lot of Ace. I played a lot of Ace Combat games, and I play some of the Star Wars games. So space aerial combat, space combat, plane combat. Thankfully I'm more familiar with, so it wasn't too challenging getting through that one for me. But definitely was just kind of a little taste of things to come. And I do like that you have to adjust your power levels and whatnot. I wish there was a easier way to do it, but I do play on my game pad, just like, even though I'm on PC, I like it because I can have the joystick for the combat, the space combat, and really helps. So from the space combat, then we go down to Crete, and we fight the Crimson guys there. And this part of the quest was fun because you're able to kind of be stealthy. I usually like to play as a sneaky archer or a recon stealth guy. So even though as a space trucker, I try not to be too crazy with the stealth aspect, I was sneaking around, kind of getting a feel for it. Thankfully, Vasco, who's with you for that first mission, was not too much of a hindrance. But it was a lot of fun sneaking around that whole base, killing the guys.
Yeah. After playing it a couple of times, this particular time I was able to sneak in, and there's a couple of guys, right? You go down some stairs and you turn a corner and you look through into the room and you see two pirates there discussing something with some cargo. The first time I played, I kind of just walked into the room, and oh no, I'm in a battle, right? Yeah. This time, knowing better, I was able to get a good firing position and kill both of them right off. 3 shots, both of them dead. Boom, boom.
Yep.
And so it was completely different kind of battle than the running gun and the pucker factor of the first time doing it. This time I felt a lot more in control. I knew the situation I was in. I knew I had my gamer skills were up to the task of playing the game. Whereas the first time, you don't even know what you're doing at that point. You just started trying to figure out how to aim, how to use the aimed feature versus just firing from the hip and things like that, changing weapons, tactics of sneaking and stuff like that. By this time, I've done this 4 or 5 times, so got a pretty good grasp of what's going on.
Yeah, what I decided to do was in my game settings, I made the player combat damage very easy, but I made the enemy's combat damage, I set that to very hard. So it's if you play kind of some more of the more realistic shooters like Tom Clancy games, you shoot somebody once or twice, they die. You get shot once or twice, you're dead. And so you play slower. It forces me to slow down to really analyze the situation, but then I can, drop a squad of guys once I've kind of marked them all and know where they're all at. So it's a fun way to play if you're wanting a little different style of gameplay.
Right. I've got mine set to enemy combat damage extreme.
Yep.
Those guys, 1 or 2 hits and I'm gone.
Yep.
So I got to really watch for cover and being able to hide and take cover and pick my shots. But then I've got my damage to hard. So it's not as good as theirs, but it's still pretty good.
Okay.
And then ship damage is the same thing. The enemy ships do extreme damage to me. I do hard damage to the enemy ships. And I've made some decisions to make the gameplay a little easier for me for having like increased carrying capacity and cargo access anywhere. So I really like what they did. It was patched the second or third patch through. They went and added all of these toggles.
Mm-hmm.
Gameplay settings that weren't there when the first time you played the game, you didn't have any of these settings. And so that's some of the stuff you're like, maybe this game needed another 6 months. I mean, it was good for me. It was one of the best releases of a Bethesda game that I've experienced. Mm-hmm. But you're still looking at stuff that going, some of these things that came out very shortly after the game was released probably the game should have been held off until these things were ready. But, it's Bethesda. For me, I give them a break. I'm really easy on these guys as a developer goes. But I like all the different things. You can customize your gameplay, and it gives you experience bonuses and deductions, on how hard or easy you want to make the gameplay for yourself. Right now, mine is at a plus 10% experience. So that tells you, I think your maximum you can get up to like a 35, maybe possibly up to 40 if you were to max everything out, make the game as difficult and survival gameplay as possible. It's like a total of 40. But you can take it down to minus 20.
I'm at 63%. You can get it really high. I've made everything challenging. The ammo or the ammo weight, cargo access distance is not on, so you have to be in the ship. The vendor credits. Now, I'll go into the settings to adjust things real quick when I need to. So I'll suddenly, like if I'm far from my ship and I'm overburdened, I'll just change the setting on my ship access, cargo access, so I can throw everything in the ship and then just fast travel out. Right. And then when I land at a place to sell, I'll go to where the vendor credits is and max it out real quick, or increase their credits so that way I can sell everything, and then change it back. So sometimes I'll dip down to about 50, but then I'll go back up to 63. And because one thing I will do is if I know I'm going to be on a spree for a while of only doing ground-based combat, I'll put the space combat settings up to extreme. and because I'm not going to be in my ship anyways, I'll just put those at extreme. And then vice versa, if I'm going to be in space doing some combat stuff there, I'll put my ground combat difficulty settings all the way up to extreme, and then adjust the space combat stuff down a little bit if I want to. That's
Yeah.
So that I'm usually around 63%, which is nice because you get your experience up there faster and get some.
I didn't realize
some
you could go that high.
yeah.
Because I'm much more of a casual gamer. The survival stuff, it gets frustrating for me. Frustrating is not fun for me. So I set it to a comfortable point where the enemies, they're not bullet sponges, and I'm not a bullet sponge, so it's a little more, the combat is quick and decisive. But the creature comforts, I kind of like, if I'm running around New Atlantis and I go and buy some stuff, right? I kind of use the headcanon that I can have it delivered. I mean, even today, I can have my groceries delivered to me. Why couldn't I just tell Jameson Mercantile, hey, I'm in ship docking bay 3. Can you just go ahead and have. And that gives me the headcanon for why I can do the cargo access distance anywhere.
Yep.
Sometimes
that makes
I
sense.
get cheaty, like you say, and go, well, yeah, it's a long ways back to the ship, and it's crawl when I'm over, over cucumbered, as some would say.
Yep.
And, so sometimes you cheat a little bit and go, let's go ahead and just deposit that in the ship so I can get back there.
Yeah, that's the survival kind of stuff is the stuff I actually have turned off though, like environmental damage. I have that or the afflictions. I think I might get health damage and your health bar starts getting that red, but I don't have the actual afflictions where you get like frostbite or any stuff like that, because that just reaches a point where the mechanic just takes some of the fun out of the game for me personally. So I have injuries, but no afflictions.
I still play with that a little bit, and it's the food healing and the affliction. Like you're saying, when we first got all of these switches that we could turn them on and off, I had them all set pretty high. And you're right. I played for a few hours and realized I'm not doing anything except for stopping to heal, stopping to eat, stopping to drink, stopping to heal, stopping to eat. And it's like, man, this game loop is not very fun. I've got to adjust this a bit.
So mission number 2 is the old neighborhood, and that's where you're required to go through that mission with Sarah. So you get to the lodge and you meet the whole crew there. Any thoughts on meeting the folks at the lodge?
Again, it was kind of just step by step. Not particularly. I don't know. I've done it a few times and nothing really stands out that, maybe as you talk, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. I did that too. But nothing's jumping out at right off the top of my head. I'm looking at the list of things, and so you walk in and you talk to Sarah, right?
Yeah, Sarah's the first person you talk to, and then you kind of get acquainted to Mateo and Noel and Walter. You don't meet Vlad yet because he's up in the eye. And so, yeah, it was. I was a little surprised that you get thrust into such a large group of people so fast, because usually in other Bethesda games you don't quite meet such a large crew. It's because the Constellation, in a way, is like a faction in and of itself, and so usually you don't meet that large group of people in a Bethesda game until you sign up with one of the factions, and then you're kind of thrust in the group and you meet everybody. So it was a little weird to meet so many people so quickly. But I mean, not good or bad, but just different from a typical Bethesda game.
I do remember after the first time of doing this part, the time that it takes just to try to holding your hand to talk to everybody in the lodge. You're like, okay, I'll go talk to this guy. Okay, I'll go talk to her. She's gonna walk me around the lodge and show me all the rooms. Okay, you get done. You're by the time you're done with that, you're ready to be. Let's get back outside. Let's go do something.
Yeah, it definitely. Thankfully, you don't really have to do everything, but you have the quest log to have Noel give you the tour around the lodge and all that. And so, They should at least give you some good experience for doing that, but I don't even think they give you experience. It's just more hold your hand, show you around the place. So,
Right.
So then you take off with Sarah and you head to Mars because she has you go talk to Commander Tua because he has some information, and that's where you can start the UC Vanguard. You're kind of introduced to that, which is kind of cool how they at least set you up to be able to do these factions, join the factions as you kind of go through the initial part of the main quest. So you meet Commander Tua, he sends you over to Mars, and at that point, you go out to where was it? Saturn or Jupiter? It's around the moon. It's around the moon. It's the Nova Galactic base there, and so then you get the chance to. There's the battle between the Ecliptic and the Crimson Fleet inside the space station. That you interrupt that, and lots of good combat in this entire space station fight. But again, the downside to me, it was having Sarah with me, and I usually like to play as a solo player. I usually don't like to have a companion around when I'm in general. Obviously, there are certain times I like to have a companion, but if I know I'm going into a place to face some bad guys, I want to go in solo. So a little annoying to be forced to have Sarah with me there. Cause I'd say I like to have a companion like 90% of the time, just for more of the world building, the exploring, the adventuring. It's fun to have the companion, but when I really want to go in to a mission, I like to be solo. But it kind of forces you to stick with Sarah there.
So you were saying that the very first part of this is you talk to Sarah, and then Sarah says we got to go meet my contact. Contact is Commander Tula. This is where you have the option of joining the Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of paused my playthrough to get onto the Vanguard because I know if I just do the first mission or two, I get access to a lot of Vanguard space weapons, right? It's for my spaceship, and I get shields, and so I'm like, okay, let's do that real quick. And so Tula says after you go and you do the flight simulator, okay, looks good. We're gonna swear you in, and then go get your gear from the gear supply guy down at the docks, right?
Yep.
And so my guy, he's faithful Vanguard rookie down there, and he goes to go talk to the first officer that he's going to deal with. So I took a few notes, and I'm about to talk to the captain that's going to give me the new gear. And I think this is like a very serious moment, and he's going to tell you to good luck, young recruit, go get him. And I'm standing there waiting for the conversation to end, and from behind me, I hear, oh my God, is it you? It really is you. And so I've got this fanboy show up behind me. I'm trying to have this serious meeting with an officer. I'm like the junior rookie, and I've got this officer that's kind of giving me the rundown of, okay, you do this. And then I've got this fanboy show up behind me that wants to be my best friend in the world. Oh my God. Oh, you're the best. And it was the funniest moment. I remember that so clearly. That was such a funny moment because I had forgotten that I had taken the adoring fan perk or adoring fan. What is it? It's not.
Well, it's hero worshipped in this game, but it's the same voice actor who did the adoring fan from Oblivion. Right. So you chose that for this particular playthrough?
It's just the second time I've chosen it because I really like I really like the interplay between him and you versus the people from the lodge. Mm-hmm. This guy's much more fun. Yeah, a lot funner to have around. The dialogue, the background dialogue that he has is it's great.
Yeah,
he's a good fighter, good companion. He really is a good companion too.
Okay. Well, the four. So whenever you have a crew members on your ship, and whenever you take off, a lot of times they'll say some fun comment when you take off. But it's only ever the 4 main companions that you can romance, but it's also him if you happen to have that trait. So if you hire some other people or get other folks on your ship, like I have Rosie Tannehill always on my ship that's a mod we'll have to get into later, the infirmary mod. But she never says anything. None of the other crew will say anything. It's just those 4 main companions and the adoring fan. Yep. But that's funny having that drop right there. And I think he hangs out at Terra Brew. I think Terra Brew is where he hangs out at if you don't already have him or haven't found him yet.
I also have the Lyra, I think, mod that gives you this girl that hangs out in front of Jameson Mercantile.
Okay.
So the very first time I land on New Atlantis, I picked her up. And she's also kind of a nutty, silly, mod for a companion. And I like to do these other companion mods, because I don't know. There is so much going on in these games that to take just one character and develop them to the point that the mods are developed, I can understand why Bethesda didn't go that route, because there's a lot going on already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But sometimes it leaves, for me, it leaves the choosable companions a little flat. And so I like to have the option after a few playthroughs to pick up somebody new, different, that's got some different background dialogue. And so there's some good ones that just came out. There's Crew that I'm playing with also.
Okay. I'll have to check those ones out. And so once you finish the old neighborhood quest, at that point, I think that's when the game completely unshackles you. You can go exploring, leave the entire main quest behind, don't have to do anything. But because we're doing the main quest, we're going to go ahead and talk briefly about the next 3 missions, which I think you can do in any order you want. It's Samco, Empty Nest, back to Vectera with where you go and get Barrett, right, and then Into the Unknown. So Empty Nest with Samco, that's the one that takes you to Aquila City, kind of shoehorns you into, kind of puts you down a path to meet the Freestar Rangers. You deal with the bank. You yep, discover that Samco is a descendant of the guy who basically started the Freestar Collective. And then you walk, it's in the same region, right? Yeah, you literally just walk, or it's a bit of a jaunt, but you go to the Shaw Gang. You take out the Shaw Gang again with Samco in tow, and I mean, that mission was pretty straightforward. Just introducing you to more new things. You go to Aquila, so you get to go to a new planet and whatnot. Nothing really.
This mission really, this one I noticed in particular, introduces you to the persuasion mechanic of the game. Because as soon as you get onto Aquila, as soon as you walk through the gates, you're met by a bank heist. And so the first thing you have to do is go try to convince the robbers to come out. And there's 2 or 3 persuasion checks there. You go a little further, and there's another persuasion check when you're dealing with Sam's dad. And then a little further on, when you're going to I think there's a persuasion check with the Shaw Gang leader. So this is Bethesda's introduction for you to the persuasion mechanic of the game. And so it gives you like 4 or 5. So if you've started your persuasion skill, it gives you the opportunity right off the bat. Challenge is done in a second of your persuasion skill just through this single quest.
Yeah, I had pretty good luck on my very first playthrough, and then again this time resolving the bank heist thing where it didn't result in having to go in and shoot up the place. And so I almost wonder if it's maybe harder for some players. I usually have bad luck with the persuade thing, so I don't know if it's an easy one to pass, but Yeah.
There's the hypolata, I think is what they call it. There's a drug that you can take that gives you 20% increase on your persuasion.
Oh yeah, the little pill bottle. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that one.
And
Plus, a lot of the alcohol drinks give you like a 8% or something like that.
Yeah. But you're able to find one of those pill bottles. I'm not sure if it's on Vectera or if it's somewhere in the lodge, maybe.
Okay.
But I always find one and I hold on to it until I get to this point. And this is the first time I use it when I'm talking to the gangsters.
Yep.
To
At
try
the
to
bank.
get my bank. But I've done it the other way where you go in and you have to kind of, it's a little bit more of the stick instead of the carrot approach.
And then, so after you finish Empty Nest, and you can get Sam as your travel companion. I remember I used Sam a lot on my first character, and some people tend to think he's kind of a bad dad because he's having his daughter with all this, and I kind of get it, but at the same time, like, look at every other place around the entire galaxy. The only city I would consider "quote unquote" safe is New Atlantis, and even then, really. So it's like, you might as well have your daughter in tow. Now, obviously, depending on your choices as a player and what your character's up to, maybe it wouldn't be the best place for a 10-year-old girl to, if you become a pirate and he's on your ship and all that. But
Right.
But Sam, I found Sam to be a kind of a almost a little dry of a character. Like he doesn't have the enthusiasm Barrett does. Because I didn't use Barrett hardly at all in my first playthrough or my first character. But well, speaking of Barrett, so the back to Vectera, that's when you go to get him, and you find out that he and Heller got kidnapped. So then you go, you find Heller on the moon, and you got to pick him up. And at that point, he can become part of your crew, as well as Lynn. And I always like to put them at my outpost because I think both of them have some kind of an outpost related skill. Yeah. So I make sure to get them on my crew at that point in time. And then this is one of my favorite battles here, because at this point you don't have Sarah with you if you don't want. You can be companion free, and so it's always on a moon where you got all the Crimson Fleet pirates at that same exact base. And I always like to sneak around up to the tower, take that guy out, so then I can start sniping at the guys down below. It's kind of my standard format for that, and it's a lot of fun doing kind of the stealthy sniper approach to this mission.
Yeah, and I really like the way that the story plays out when you go to rescue Barrett, and the kind of you get a lot of, like you were saying with Sam Coe, his backstory's a little dry. It's kind of okay. You've got your whole family background and blah blah to deal with. With Barrett, it's like this total swashbuckling, like super suave and debonair, just cracking jokes the whole time, and it's really more like watching a movie play out. This portion of the game, so enjoyable. Listening to the story play out for Barrett and how he gets into this trouble and how it's explained by these other characters, how he gets out of trouble or gets these other people out of trouble. And a lot of fun. Gives you a lot of understanding to Barrett. That he's probably one of my most favorite companions in the game. I really like Barrett.
Yeah, he definitely gives off some Jack Sparrow vibes with how he's kind of the way he gets out of trouble gets him in trouble, into a new kind of trouble almost every time. And one thing it hit me when I was doing this playthrough is, what if after you're done with the Sarah mission, you immediately go join the Crimson Fleet? So either by going through the UC Vanguard and choosing that way and becoming loyal to them, or you commit a crime, get arrested, with the whole 9 yards. But let's say you're in the Crimson Fleet official, you've done the first couple missions, then you go to do the Back to Vectera mission. Would you be able to bypass that entire battle on the surface? I need to test that out.
Yeah, how hard baked are those characters into the game? Because if you're a Crimson Fleet member, you should be able to just walk up and just say, "Hey guys, how's it going? Barrett, come on with me."
Exactly. And because there are times when you get those little radiant quests on a mission, and I discovered this on my main character when he was doing the Crimson Fleet quest. I was on, I think it was literally the moon, and there was some miners that they had, one of their guys was taken hostage or something. And so I went to rescue him, and I went into the thing, and there was a Crimson Fleet guy right in front of me, but he didn't shoot. That's because I'm in the Crimson Fleet. So I was able to go and get this guy out of there without killing anybody. And so it would be cool to see if they actually have that dynamic done properly with all those Crimson Fleet guys, where you can just walk right in.
Yeah.
So,
And I wouldn't be surprised if everybody but the main captain, what is his name? I've got it right here. Matsura is
Yep.
the captain holding Barrett. And I wouldn't be surprised if all of the other Crimson Fleet guys ignored you if you were Crimson Fleet. But I think the Matsura probably is hard-baked coded to attack when he sees you because, you're there to take his prize.
yeah.
Pirate,
You can talk him. I think you can talk him down and actually just walk out of Barrett in there from the inside area, but it's all the ones on the surface that always attack every time I go.
And I think they would definitely let you walk right by if you were Crimson Fleet.
Yeah, so I'll have to test that out and report back.
Yeah.
Although typically I just go in and kill all the pirates, because unless I'm playing a very specific pirate character, which I have yet to do that, I kill all pirates at all times because I don't do pirates. But I do look forward to doing my plan for that is to do a character that does pro Crimson Fleet and does all the bad choices on all the quests. But then once I've finished all that, I'll do the constellation quest because the character is feeling kind of guilt-ridden. I'll go through the main quest, go through the Unity into a new universe, so that way she can. It's a female character, like assassin style, with melee weapons. So I've already kind of thought the character up. I'll go into a new universe, and that way she can be goody two shoes at that point. But I definitely look forward to doing the Crimson Fleet proper.
Right, you get to play the bad guy, and then the redemption arc of playing the good guy.
Yep.
After you go through the New Game Plus.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun playthrough.
Yep. And so then that takes us to Into the Unknown. That's where you go talk to Vlad.
Yep,
for the first time on the Eye, and he tells you to go after another artifact as well as the temple. It's with artifact.
First thing has you go get an artifact and keep your eye out for one of the other members of Constellation.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, and which is Andreja. So you get her, and she's right off the bat. You see her killing a couple of Varun guys. Which we'll have to do a special episode where we just do each of the 4 companion loyalty quests, whatever you want to call them, because those are all very different and unique. Anyways, I
like Barrett's on one also. His background is a lot. That's a fun one.
Yeah, a little CSI kind of stuff going on, Law and Order. Crime investigation. So let's see. You get on
straight up, just like murder hobo in these guys. You walk up and stand and just kind of watch. She's just like going to town on these guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of a serious one.
Yep, she's knocking it out, and so she ended up being my romance character on my first playthrough. But she's more dry, kind of like Sam, but it's with a twist of humor to it, because she almost comes across naive because she grew up in the Varun culture. So she comes across as a fish out of water with a lot of the things you say. So she's a lot of fun as a companion and to have in dialogue. Plus she's okay with you doing a little gray decisions. She's not critical of you like Barrett and Sarah can be.
Yeah.
And she'll do the Red Mile with you. So she likes doing the Red Mile. So that's bonus points in my book. So, yep.
He's athletic.
Yep. And Yeah, because it's at this point you would get your first powers in this mission, right? The anti-gravity one.
I didn't get that
Or
until
wait.
well, no, because you have to go back to the lodge and see. I did mine out of order because the first thing I did was Sarah's,
Yep.
and then I did Barrett's, then I did Andresia's, and then I did Sam. And it wasn't until I did Sam's and went back. Maybe it was Andresia, and I went back. And then Vlad tells you at that point, hey, found this temple place with a large. It's got a signature like the artifact, but it's a lot bigger signature. Go check it out. So it's the second time you deal with Vlad that you go to your first temple.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just reading through it. Yeah, because you go back. Yeah, because eventually you get back and you have to show them your power, and that's what completes this quest. And then that takes you to quest 6, which is the all that money can buy. Yeah. Now the anti-gravity.
So what? Let's back up a second.
Yep.
The first time that you went through the temple,
Mhm.
what were your thoughts on that the very first time?
Oh,
You remember?
well, I was rather shocked because I had been completely dark on all of the trailers, all of the content for the game, so I knew nothing about any of the Starborn stuff. I saw
Right.
headlines in the marketing sometimes, so I knew there would be shipbuilding. I knew there would be a procedural generation to exploring the solar system, but I knew nothing of the powers at all. And so
They kept that kind of under wraps. There was some if you did pay attention like I did and just watched and submerged yourself completely, you got some clues to it.
okay.
But if you were just kind of staying on the outside and maybe only watching the trailers, they kept it pretty under wraps. You didn't really know anything about space wizards.
Okay. I mean that. So I was a bit mixed on the powers. On one hand, I think it's a great mechanic. It's a lot of it. A lot of it is basically the Dragonborn powers from Skyrim just ported into Starfield. To be honest,
Yep.
So on one hand, it's pretty cool. On the other hand, I because I didn't expect any kind of superpowers, I went back to before I did that quest, before I started it to a save, and just continued playing. At that point, I went and did the Freestar Rangers. I did the Crimson Fleet, a lot of side quests, because I didn't want that part of my character yet. And this is on my main character. Because I just wanted it to be a more grounded space game. You know,
Right.
obviously you've got the sci-fi aspect of the grav drives and being able to jump around a galaxy, but nothing magical, so to speak. So, but by the time I was done with all of that, and I was ready for the powers, and I have so much fun with them. My main 3 are the anti-grav, which is the first one you get. Eventually, you get the personal atmosphere, so you could sprint a lot without your stamina going down. And then what was the
Stuff.
I can't.
Beings.
Yeah, star stuff. I don't use that one much. I can't remember my third one. So, but the anti-grav is my favorite one because I'll hit that, and I usually will have some mines. So all the guys start floating, and then I huck a mine, and it just floats until it gets within proximity, and then it detonates, and they just go everywhere because it's all an anti-gravity. There's no gravity, so the physics. It's hilarious.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, similar to the space combat when you're in ships without gravity. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, not tried that. See, you're giving me some ideas of some gameplay. Try different ways to play, different gameplay to use. I typically use the star sense, especially because of the sneakiness. You're able to, all right, there's somebody around the corner in the other room, so sneak around past the door or sneak in and kill them. So I use the star stuff.
Oh,
Since
it lets you see people through walls.
yeah, you can see
Okay.
them through walls.
Okay.
Through like if you're out in the open, you can see people on the other side of the ridge.
Okay.
creatures on the other side of, on the top side of a ridge. If you're looking up a hill, you can see that there's creatures out of your view on the other side of the ridge.
Oh, that
So
would be really useful when you're doing your surveying and you're trying to find and a lot of times those little grubs, the little small guys. Okay.
you can't find.
With that, what's the range on that?
It increases as you go through. It's only don't get me to lying. I don't know.
Oh, but every time you level it up per universe, the range expands.
The range increases and the time, how long it lasts, increases, and how much it costs. So there's like 3 different aspects to your powers. There's length of time it lasts, how much it costs to cast it,
and effectiveness.
How effective it is.
Yeah.
And then there's the essences, but I've never even used the essences at all.
Oh, you know what those are for, right?
Mm-mm.
When you hit a power, you've got your stamina bar, and then right below that, you use up some. Think of it like your magicka in Skyrim, right? The essence is a magicka potion.
Okay, it's a mana potion.
Yeah, and so you if you use one of your powers that uses up 75% of your Starborn power, you go into your menu real quick and hit one of those, and it refills up your power. And you get one of those essences every time you kill a Starborn.
I wonder if those essences can be hotkeyed to on the console, because it's kind of a pain in the butt to go into your
menu,
your personal menu, and then to go into your star menu, and then hit the button for the essences down on the left hand lower. Find that, use that, then get back back into combat. Just trying to cast the second thing again real quick.
Yes,
breaks it completely. So that's why I've never used it, because it's so immersive to get to it. Real immersive. Not really tuned my character how to use it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
My main character probably got 100 of them saved up. Just a stack of them.
Yeah, because I think they do carry over into new universes with you. They do roll over.
Sure.
It's the one quote unquote like kind of item, so to speak, that you get to bring over. And now we're on our final quest of the episode we're discussing here, All That Money Can Buy. And this is where you got to go get another artifact, but Walter Stroud needs to go with you because it's over in Neon City. And this one's a bit of a longer quest. I tend to remember it being shorter because of the main part of the mission at the end is when you're walking around with Walter Stroud. But when you get to Neon City, assuming you haven't been there yet, this is the first time you go there. So you're introduced to a lot of things. There's so many things you can get distracted by, from the guy getting busted for Aurora, and then all the merchant shops, which this is the best place to go sell stuff, loot. I always go to the Neon Core right away to sell stuff, because I'll hit up the tactical weapon place, Neon Tactical, to sell all my weapons, and then I'll go right next door to the Trade Authority to sell armor and everything else. But it was fun. What's that? Go ahead.
When the game first came out, it was way more important because the merchants had such a small bank account that they could deal with. So you could only sell two guns. You got 35 guns on you, and you're selling 2 at a time. You go to the next guy, 2 guns at a time. Go to the next guy. So when the game first came out, what you're saying was so true, that you wanted to find the shortest distance between merchants with the fewest load screens, so you could get in, sell, go to the next guy, sell, go to the next guy, and sell. And yeah, everybody talked about Neon being the best place because all the merchants were in this one hub, and you could just run in a circle and hit everybody.
Yeah, and I actually had done a video. I can't remember what I called the video, but it was like vendor route, where I actually calculated how much credits you could get, assuming you had just a bunch of loot on you. It was, I think it's like around 60 to 70,000. So if you made a point to go to the Neon Tactical and sell your weapons, then go to, and then also the Arboron guy down in the red end of the hall, he's a weapon vendor, so he'll buy weapons and ammo off you. Hit those 2 guys up first. make sure to sell your medical supplies to Reliant Medical. And then at that point, I think everybody else will buy anything.
Does it make a difference on pricing who you sell your different items to?
No, pricing I don't think matters. The only thing that affects pricing is the commerce skill itself. So it's just a matter of like it, being able to maximize your credit selling, per place. And so there's also the mag gun manufacturer that's in one of the, I think it's the red tower on the red end. I think that's where he's at. It might be the purple side. I can't recall, but he's also a weapon vendor and he has 12,000 something. But obviously, since they added that vendor credits option in the settings, whenever I land at Neon City, I go into the settings, max it out real quick, and I pretty much can sell everything I have to Neon Tactical and the Trade Authority guy. If I need to, I'll run over to Newell's because I always like to buy it Digipicks, and sometimes he might have some med picks on, So
right.
Less tedious, thankfully, now that they have that setting in there. But yeah, then you go upstairs and you meet Walter Stroud's wife and their husband-wife partnership that runs Stroud Eklund. And for my main character, it was a lot of fun because at this point in the game, I had just naturally decided the Stroud Eklund parts were my favorite. So, and I hadn't made the connection that Walter Stroud and the Constellation was the Stroud Eklund of Stroud Eklund. And so I had done, the Freestar Rangers, Crimson Fleet, lots of side quests, building all these awesome ships that were Stroud Eklund heavy. And so when I went to resume the main quest, I was so excited that I got to be with, that'd be like my hero. Like, this dude built all these, And so,
like hanging out with the guys that made the original Corvettes. Oh man, the designers of the Corvette. Oh, this is going to be awesome.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And so you go to the Slayton Aerospace, but then you end up getting, you got to go get the part or the artifact, but it ends up being kind of a whole mess where you got to sneak around with him, which on one hand it was fun. On the other hand, it was annoying to have to do it with him in tow because I like the espionage, the stealthy missions, and this would have been great doing it by yourself. So, but still, it was still a fun mission, and Walter's a pretty cool character.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't make him. I don't know. He's so buttoned up and business suit. It would be hard to see him as a companion, but I don't know. Might be kind of fun to have him as a companion. Dress him in something different than the business suit. Put him in a, cargo outfit or something.
Yeah, he probably would make a fun companion. What they could do is like with the Adoring Fan in Oblivion, if you have him following you around whenever there's a fight, he takes off. He gets out of dodge. He doesn't stick around for the fight. They could do the same thing with Walter, where he just hides. That would be fine, because
he did like he was kind of cowering in a corner, shaking, but more of a tactical retreat is a good tactic.
yeah, I could see something like that with him. That'd be fun. Now, I will say though, I've not done the Ryusin questline. That's the one questline I have yet to do because I've got a feeling that's a lot more of the stealthy espionage kind of stuff. I did do the first mission on it, but I accidentally deleted the character because I had created the assassin character that's going to go through the Crimson Fleet, be going to make all the bad choices, right? Also do Ryusin, and then so when I'll kind of do whatever. I'm assuming there's a big decision at the big end of Ryusin, kind of like all the other quests.
Yeah, there's a yes, and there's some really good rewards also.
Okay, yeah, so I'll do whatever decision is kind of more self-centered and selfish and quote unquote bad in my first universe with her. So when I go through Constellation, I'll be able to redo the Ryusin quest line, making the more ethical choice, assuming it's like that. That'll be a lot of fun when we get to that point. I might actually save that playthrough for when we get to the Ryujin quest line in our podcast here, so that way it's a very new experience, truly a new experience.
Right.
So, but alrighty.
That'd be a good perspective. That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, that wraps up this episode. So we did not get any feedback for missions 1 through 6. So if you guys want to, be sure to get your feedback in. Our next recording is going to be, I believe, in 2 weeks. Let me double check my calendar.
February 1, I believe, is what we talked about.
February. Oh, no. Oh, we're going to have a longer break here because I'm out of town next weekend. February 1st. I'll be out of town over on the coast for a couple nights. Okay. And so we could do February 8th. Yeah, I'll be in town, so that's 2 weeks from today. Is that one good for you?
Yeah, I just got to set it up so I don't set anything else there.
Okay, same here. Yeah, so if you guys want to send in some feedback, the next... try to have it in by Friday, February 7th. So then that way I can have that ready for the episode recording. We record very early on Saturday mornings, 0500 Pacific time. So now we're going to do the Overdesigned mission, which is a side quest, but that's one that you get the option to do once you've completed mission 6 with Walter. He's like, hey, I got this little side project. So that's where you get to design a ship for, well, not really literally build it yourself, but there's 2 different ships that will be made depending on your choices. So we're going to surprise each other next recording with which one we chose. And then so that'll be missions 7 through 11, I believe, which is a high price to pay. So big spoiler alert on that mission. So those are the missions we're going to do next week. So Overdesigned and main quest missions 7 through 11. And other than that, folks, any last word, Jax?
Where can folks send their feedback to?
Oh, excellent point. They need to know that. starfieldreport@gmail.com. And as always, the links, the description below will have all the show notes and all the information you guys need. And also, if you have any pictures you want to send them into starfieldreport@gmail.com of your ships and just fun exploration pictures. I'll put those in the end credits of each episode. All right. Other than that, folks, take care, and we will see you in the Starfield.
You guys have a great week. We'll see you in a couple.
Well, that was some fine work under pressure.
Get out of here, Dusty. You're on to bigger things.